Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, Haru Well. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect. This is your brother Dawada from the Men of Valor campaign, Greenville, South Carolina, coming back with another video in sincerity and in truth. Lord willing, it can be edifying. And I wanted to speak on this everything crash that happened on Friday. All right, and it happened, they had it posted on, Twitter and stuff like that. But, if you were to look out, if you went out on Friday, went to the store, went to work, saw people out and about, you wouldn't even have known that anything happened. Why? Because most of these everyday people, they're not holding equities, they're not holding bonds, they're not holding stocks like that. Okay. Yes, you are able to, download apps and trade stocks and stuff, but the mass majority of the holdings are held by, companies held by the elites, by high net worth individuals. But on Friday, something triggered a major sale. Now, from my experience and looking at the equity markets and everything over the past years, all right, it's very, very, very rare that you'll see every equity market. And when I say equity market, I'm meaning your stock market, your bond market, your oil futures, your gold, and your silver, all right, and your crypto. It's rare that you see every one of those sectors all go down at the same time. Okay, a lot of times if you see the stock market crash, they're moving money out the stock market and they're putting it into gold, or they're putting it into silver, because silver and gold will never go to zero. Not to say it doesn't fluctuate, but it will always hold retain value. Now, stocks can go to zero. Okay, stocks can go to zero. The U.S., the equity markets, they can crash. Crypto can go to zero. It's propped up by the buying and selling of these different assets, if you will. So the fact that every one of them crashed, and the dollar went higher, all right, because they needed to liquidate, and when I say liquidate, they needed to turn that, say you got your stocks, they sold some stocks to hold it in U.S. dollars. They sold Bitcoin, they sold crypto to hold it in U.S. dollars. All right, and what that means is they're bracing for something. Now, you got a lot of stuff going on. You have uncertainty with this new Fed chairman, which he's supposed to be speaking soon. I believe in the next couple weeks or so. Don't quote me on it, but I do know that overall the economy doesn't know, or these keepers of the house, they don't necessarily know his angle. If he's hawkish, if he's dovish. You got these terms, hawk, dove, when it comes to rate cuts. Your federal rates and whatnot, because this determines how much companies can borrow, debt and all that, and it's also determined by the health of the economy. Now, the health of the economy, despite what they're trying to tell you on the internet, despite what they're trying to tell you on social media, despite what they're trying to tell you on the news, okay, the economy is going downhill fast. You have everyday people that are coming on TikTok saying, I'm making more money than ever, but I can't afford anything, because everybody's laden down with debt. And this was all by design. But not to get too long-winded, I do want to bring out Ecclesiastes 12, because, we always bring this out concerning, the downturn of the markets. And we saw just that on Friday, $1.7 trillion wiped from the stock market. And they're also getting ready to do this SpaceX IPO, which I believe through the spirit that's nothing but a money grab. That's a money grab for the elites. They're going to use your 401ks, because when you have 401k, you're not actively, you can choose your stocks, but most of these people don't. All right, that means somebody's choosing on your behalf. And if they're going to force this in the NASDAQ, then you're buying into this SpaceX IPO, which will make Elon Musk, a trillionaire on paper. It's going to make all their investors, all these different, high net worth individuals, it's going to make them filthy fucking rich. And they're already rich. Meanwhile, everybody else is getting poor. They're going to use this as a cash grab, you know, through the spirit. Hey, that's James 5, man. Go to now, you rich men. Weep and howl for the miseries that shall come upon you. You know, they're heaping up treasures for the last days. You know, their garments are, their gold is corrupted. You know, all of that. All these scriptures we bring out, man. It's happening. The will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is happening on the earth. And part of the next phases of prophecy will be the systematic breakdown of the American empire. And the Lord's been doing it. All right, but hey, with the Iran peace talks, you know, basically just they don't exist anymore. They're not talking anymore, which means what? They're going to continue to fight, which means the Strait of Hormuz will continue to be closed, which means your gas and your oil, all of that is uncertain, which means everything's going to continue to get more expensive. All right, they're pricing you people out of life, you know, and you don't have any hope. We have hope in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. We knew through the Spirit that this was going to come to pass, but you people, you don't have a leg to stand on. So nonetheless, you know, just to give a little backdrop on you know what's going on, you know, let's bring out the scriptures, all right? Because the Lord said that this would happen. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 1. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. You know, they shall say that. You know, while everything, all hell ain't broke loose yet, you know, it still seems normal outside, you know. Verse 2, it says, while the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. You know, hey, that makes me think of 2 Ezra 16 chapter. Victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. You people think you're good right now. Even in the economic downturn, you think the economy is always going to bounce back. You think America's going to always be. But this is not the case, man. They're moving toward this NWO. They're moving toward blockchain. They're going to leave you people holding these worthless-ass FRNs. Verse 3, it says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble. And the keepers of the house, we equate those to your financial analysts, you know, your Fed chairman and whatnot. When they talk about the health of the government, the economy, you know, how things are looking up, says they're trembling. And the strong men shall bow themselves, your labor force, and the grinders cease because they are few. And those that look out of the windows be darkened. And that third verse is the one that really hits home for where we are right now. You know, those that look out of the windows be darkened. Your Jim Cramers, your financial analysts, your private equity managers, your hedge fund managers. They're all looking at they might tell you one thing, but they're all looking at the economy like, fuck. And Japan and China both hold the most U.S. debt. And in one foul swoop, all right, they can dump it. And America wouldn't have the money to pay it. They would have to print more, which would further devalue the dollar. Which, again, things are already getting more expensive, and your dollar is already buying you less, man. All right, so it's a worst-case scenario. Verse 4, it says, then the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. So, hey, we're seeing that. All the daughters of music being brought low. Trump had, for this 250 anniversary, thing that Trump is trying to do, he was trying to have all these country music artists, and half of them then dropped out, man. Because Trump is about to make this shit about him, not about America. And he's the perfect embodiment of an Edomite pride, man. And hell, he's 1 foot in the grave. You know, and a condition of music, all of that shit is just, man, the vibration of it, all of it is just wicked as hell. But also that the labor force is being replaced by AI, and people are worried about that. You know, they're actively doing it, and they're setting you people up for this universal high income, man. You know, we see this coming a mile away through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, because the Lord has given us the eye salve to understand what his will is. This is all leading up to the MOTB being made mandatory on the earth, which is the micro C-HIP, man. All right, you got Neuralink, you got these NFC technology that's already used. Your tap to pay, that's NFC technology. All right, RFID, radio frequency identification. All right, that's going to be tied. They're going to tie your digital wallet. They're going to tie all of that to it, man. You know, hey, King Charles had already said in England that everybody has to get a digital ID. That's coming to America. All right, then you got this World Cup coming up within, this week, next week. You got all these different nations coming in. You got the borders pretty much open for this event. All right, and hey, this could be a major national security risk. We don't fully know, but hey, Esau is good for a crisis, man. So there's so much going on. The economy's crashing. People's morale is through the floor. All right, and this is all good for us, man. The will of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is coming to pass on the earth. So I just wanted to give this update. Lord, when it was edifying, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Till next time, Shalom.